Hi there. I'm
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Murad Subay, for taking your time. You are an internationally known, internationally recognized. You've received multiple awards for your street art in Yemen, which not only draws attention to um, the past events from the revolution through the war and the humanitarian crisis, you've also engaged your whole community with painting, with the experience of artwork on the street that wasn't really there before the revolution, and you've introduced a new involvement among the people of Yemen with art as a powerful voice for their situation in these years. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk a little bit about your work, and we'll look at some of your images, and I can't wait to hear from you the process that went into it.
Really, it's my pleasure. I thank you so much for this introduction. It's amazing, and like you as well, and for giving me this chance to talk to you and your students. And I'm glad to be with you today. Really,
Well,
thank you.
my long-suffering students in art survey there are two units of how we teach art history, in traditional Western canon. One starts at prehistory and sort of stops at the European Middle Ages. If you're lucky, you get the Abbasids and the Umayyads. And the other one sort of starts with the Italian Renaissance and goes all the way to contemporary art. So I've had a look at your artwork and what you channel, and perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself, but this long scope of art history and reorienting really the importance of art, how it's used to broadcast a message. In different times in history, it's been used to commemorate the visual communication, and just how we use it now and how that's developed. And I really can't think of a more important and urgently relevant artist than you right now. So thank you so much again. I was hoping you could tell us.
It's my pleasure.
I was hoping you could tell us about how you started. I've done a little research, and I see that you have studied English literature, which is such a happy circumstance that we can talk in English, and thank you for that. At Tulane University, but you're more self-taught. You felt yourself an artist.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's my major. If I take it, I should be like an author or a writer, but I failed in this. I think so. I the thing I started painting when I was in eighth grade, when I was in my childhood. Of course, it happens like suddenly. My family found me doing some contemporary art or sketches or something. I don't know. And then they pushed me. I since then I know that the words have a magic effect on the children. So we have to be careful for what we say to our children. It started in 2001. I started, but as I told you, yeah, I'm not taught. I didn't study at an academic art or something. Because we relate to this academics or institutes in Yemen. It's not exist, some areas only. But I got engaged with street art exactly after the military conflicts that Sana'a faced in the late of 2011. It's behind directly the revolution. In 2011, after 3 months only, and in the mid of March 2012, I started my first campaign, which is the aims to engage the people with in doing art in the streets, and to cover the ugliness of war, like the holes of bullets and RPG, or some weapons that destroy some places. And started like that. People started to flood it, trying to erase what they saw. At that time, in 2011, we thought it's a war. It's something, because it was the first time to see tanks in the streets and something like that. But now, during this 4 years, we saw the real world that's makes us know how is it. So after the revolution, as I told you, it was the first campaign. I called it the color your streets walls. We continue, me and a lot of people who floated into this campaign and started to do art for 3 months. The idea started to spread. Of course, it is. There was something wonderful that it's directly after revolution and people want to change something. And this idea started to spread in every city in Yemen, in the major cities in Yemen, like Aden, Taiz, Hodeidah, even in the west, in the east of Yemen. So this is the idea, and then a campaign, and after another, like the enforced disappearance campaigns came for 7 months. We continue painting their faces on the walls of 4 cities in Yemen.
I have pictures of not all. I wish I could have all, but I have about 4 or 5 pictures from each of your campaigns that I'd like to put up. My goodness, I don't know how. You have the copies of the numbers with the files that I sent you, but they're going to show up on my screen and get recorded on my screen. But unfortunately, they won't come through on yours like that. But I'll give you the reference file names in a little bit. And the progression of your campaigns and the themes from 2012 through the present day, we can definitely see the evolution of what art is being used for. You said you should be a writer, but you do use text. You are your work has received so much international attention because you are able to put the translation into English, and to even in Yemen, a conflict on the ground, what use does an English writing on the wall really serve immediately, right? But you put both Arabic and English, and so you're definitely using your education for your voice and to communicate your message, and that's what makes them, so powerful. When we get to, I don't want to get ahead of myself, when we look at the enforced disappearance campaign, I have some pictures for those. I want to start just to give an idea, to be able to have a visual reference, for my students and watchers, what we're talking about, the 2012 Color the Walls of Your Street campaign, right?
Yeah.
Could you tell me how this campaign got started? What was the inspiration? How the organizing process went underway?
Well, the first days of the revolution, I cannot separate it from the revolution, okay? And also from first of all, I started to engage. This is not, not a lot of people know that. First time to start engage with politics a little bit, it was in between 2007, between 2008. So it's before the revolution.
Yes.
Where I had a problem with the guards of the university, which I was the first grade, the first year in my university, because they tried to cut my hair. So because it was long
right.
A little bit, and my brother was next to me, Jamil. He's now living in France, and after we fought with the 9 soldiers, they beat us a lot, and after that we lead a lot of demonstrations inside the university, which started to spread in other universities. So we have to, it's the slogans we raised, that we want to fire the military from the universities. So it started then. And another time they beat us, they hate us, they are from the intelligence, and we raise an issue because even from the parliament, from the education of doctors and professors in Sana'a, and they started to support us. So it started to be like a movement, and a lot of students and the union there, they were there and supported this issue. So this is like, we cannot, after that, the revolution came. I got into the squares. I first worked as a guard to prevent, with a lot of tens, hundreds of people at the entrance of the squares of the revolution. And it was like, we are protecting the squares from getting from any weapons that get in. So we tell people who have weapons or that you have to put it away from the squares.
That must have kept you very busy.
This is 2000.
That must have kept you very busy.
Because
I know knowing Yemen, that must have kept you very busy.
Yeah, of course. Well, first days, but then people start to know there is a change, and believe me, even tribesmen who they never put their weapons, they put it. They never came with their weapons because they think that they want to change, because no one wants to be in a tyranny of such. Yeah, so
right. No, that's what the revolution was. That was the promise, right? that was.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
I said that was the promise. That was the hope of the revolution.
Sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. It was a lot of promises. We chanted in the squares for civil rights, for a civil state, for justice. And Yemenis, believe me, it was the first time since a lot of decades, and many decades, they were united at the days of the revolution. And then later, what leads me to go into the streets, it's because of the disappointment of the people. I saw it. I was one of them. So my living, where I live with my family, it's close to the old universities. It's close to a Kentucky Bridge. It is 100 meter, it's close to it. Of course, not next to it. It's 100 meter. It separated the two warring parties in Sana'a. It is from the north, from the south. There is who is the regime and forces, and the others from the other side, which is they call themselves the protective of the revolution. However, revolution was, the anti-revolution one. We have to speak clearly about.
Absolutely.
So there was 100 meter. It is like a war. I don't know how to express it. It's like a war zone. Yeah,
wow.
It's a red line between them. Of course, they prevented me doing art. I asked them, both sides, to allow me to paint. They rejected, but I used that area because they are prevented to cross it as my advantage, because resident and civilians, they can't pass because it's a main street in Sana'a. So it divided Sana'a to north and south. So I used it and started my campaigns there.
Let me plug in my USB because the pictures weren't coming up. I need to plug in my USB card, right? And to get these pictures up on the screen. But I don't want to cut you off. But just letting you know in case you hear that.
Okay. So
yeah, and so we can see these works that went up.
Sometimes I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Would you raise your voice?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. I'm
of
going to
course.
pull up some examples from Color the Walls. Okay. All things willing, technology working on my screen to show
amazing.
to show some examples of this first campaign. You mentioned that your campaigns, was this a solo effort? Was this all your work in the beginning? Or, oh my gosh, it's not, I don't know if it's the recorder, but it's not opening.
Okay.
Oh, man.
No.
Well, I'll try. Unfortunately, it's right over your face in the
Okay.
conversation. And
No problem. I mean, you just.
I'm gonna try, the usual of opening with different programs, but I really hope that it will decide to work. Let's try good old Paint. Okay. Oh, you heard that. That's the sound of failure.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of this interview, I would be more than happy. I'm going to add on just still images and do a slideshow of your works to consider them after we hear your words about them. And I think that's how we're going to make this work.
Okay.
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 So color the walls. I'm sorry. What was the phrasing of the 2012 campaign?
Color the streets of your walls.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Was it first?
It
just
seems a long.
Or did you were you already involving a larger community in your first campaign, or was this did this just start as you? In 2012.
It started in 15 March 2012. It was just a call on I updated my statue on webs and Facebook only, and then I continue painting at that area for a week alone, and for 6 days, and then the seventh day, it was a surprising for me that I found a lot of communities, a lot of people flooded because they are for a week. So what I'm doing in the streets or via my page or via even some of articles have been written by famous magazines or in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. And this is makes them flooded into the area. Not only themselves, they are youngs and olds and even passerbys and even children. There were families brought their children to paint with us, and they invited me to paint on their walls to make the event. The campaign there at their walls. So it started like this, okay, and then the people started to make a debate, and it's like a carnival or protest, whatever you can name it. I mean, yes.
And one gets the sense looking at these images. At the end of this lecture, I'm going to attach them as a slideshow. But just talking about, when I'm looking at these images, you're seeing very stark use of color cutouts. I have in mind the red background with the white and the black figure holding hands. You're using, this use of red, white, and black isn't just, this stark primary use of color. Is also, I don't know if Western audiences realize, it's the Yemeni flag, right? So there's all kinds of right. So there, of course for y'all, but in the larger scope of contemporary art, not every Western viewer is going to make that connection. They're going to just see, primary colors and block use. But this use in your work, even through all the years of red, white, and black, could you speak about all the feelings and the hopes and the Yemeni flag and how you use that in your work?
Well, it's not my artwork. This is one of
under your campaign.
An artist called Muhammad Shawafi. He's a good artist and a wonderful friend. and he just wanted to convey a message regarding his work. It was in Color the Streets of Your Walls campaign. So it is just this thing. There was like the problem of South and North in Yemen. A lot of problems between the regions, areas in Yemen, and this is he wanted to say that we have to shake our hands and to start to build our country or something. You have to agree on something, and this is what I believe what he meant by it. And this is good that it's the flag of Yemen.
Well, sure. And when we jump ahead, unfortunately, this is such a tease, but to watch this interview, at the very end, we're going to have a slideshow of your images, and it's going to start, from the 2012 campaign all the way through. But jumping ahead all the way up to your 12 hours campaign in 2013, right? So of the next year, that color palette, you're citing, the well-known graffiti art in red, white, and black, and these images that, for a Western mind, might bring to mind, Banksy's graffiti, but are being used as the voice for the specifically Yemeni situation with text in Arabic and English to make sure, it's understood universally. If you don't speak Arabic, English tends to be the lingua franca of the outside of the West, right? So,
yeah.
Hope I'm not offending the French.
I don't know. What is the question? Your voice is low.
The evolution of this palette of red, white, and black in different styles was your 12 hours campaign. Was this also did it involve the community in a way, or were these mostly yours? Yeah, it's
a very, very, very good notice that you noticed there is a develop from the first campaign, which is the Color of Your Street Wall, which is a lot of communities there, and then the second, which is a lot of communities and about political issue, and then the third, which is more professional in artistic way. We can say that. So this is a convey, and a very good notice that you noticed about these campaigns, and thank you for taking care about this thing. Yes, you should know that there is no street art or graffiti scene in Yemen. I mean, we can say that it was there, but it is shy attempt. But after the campaigns, it's pushed this scene to be a normal and a daily life for Yemenis. When they go to work, when they pass by the streets, they find those murals, and also Yemenis, they are not. So regarding the 12 hours, I'm trying. Of course, as I told you, my work is humble. I'm trying to do what I can. I'm looking to knowledge in art. I don't know how to paint properly. I'm not that professional artist, but I used stencil. I think who created it, Black Larat. He's a French in 1882, and started to know about it. And there is a lot of who master it, like Banksy and like. I don't know, and Shibakfiri in America, and a lot. So, but it started there. Then this is the campaign started to call the media, the global media, like Guardian, who started to notice this thing or something because it's connected to the respectable Banksy.
Well, certainly the now, whatever the artist Banksy's personal feelings to his status as this Western institution, right?
Yeah.
That's an ongoing thing. But was it a conscious decision on the part of you and your collaborators to use quotations of more widely known Western artists in order to draw attention to your works? Because foreign, you don't get this is the understatement of the year, but you don't get as many foreign tourists to Yemen in these days as before, so you don't see, the West doesn't see the walls. So
well, I'm of course I'm trying to talk to the Yemenis. This is my priority. Because I don't know a lot about the West. I mean, we see movies, but we don't know about the. I'm sorry for this. It's not connected to anything. Anyway, sometimes I mislead the conversation.
No,
anyway,
it's okay.
I
understand. It's a different reality.
My priority, yeah. My priority is just to talk to Yemenis, and then the message. It's discussing their issues, to talk to them, to provoke. Sometimes it's kind of protest.
Absolutely.
In times there is no protest anymore. You'll be silent now in Yemen if you try to say your voice. So this is what I'm trying to do. So it's not to talk to but later this moves to, because art is a global language. We can't say that this is only for Yemenis. It's go beyond borders. So this is what art made happen for Yemen in Yemen. It's not only happens for a local. It wasn't only directed to locals. It's go beyond borders, and then the global, they received it very well, and this was an amazing thing.
You also had a very extraordinary campaign for what had been art in Yemen. Your second campaign in 2012, The Walls Remember, was obviously directed towards a Yemeni audience who remembers the identities of these enforced disappearances. What you essentially did was use the stencil medium. You can see what you mentioned, that you had been developing the stencil medium. And with collaborators, I can see there's a certain difference among the hand that's made some of them. There were more than one. It wasn't just your hand.
No, it's not my
hand.
It was
only collaborative. You have a different artists.
It's a collaborative. Yeah,
but
for sure.
They have this uniform. They have a uniform approach. The medium, the stencil approach, a portrait of the face, the name in Arabic.
Yes.
The description of the date of disappearance, and then also for most, if not all. But you've also put it in English too, because making that image, to be understood by a wider audience.
Yes. First of all, we when I deal with language, with English, for example, I deal with the first world language now. It is a global language. We cannot say English is not anymore just for Americans or British or Canadians. Now it is a global language. People around the world speak it everywhere. So I believe that when you put your language in addition to the English language, you will have a lot of audience, more and more. So this is why I am using this. Regarding the Walls Remember Their Faces campaign, this is the second campaign for me that I launched in 8th of September in 2012. It's lasted for 7 months, for working 7 months, where I and a lot of people around me, I'm not alone, as I told you. I have a lot of assistance from great people and amazing friends and something. We painted like 102 enforced disappeared people with their families in 4 cities, in addition to Sana'a, Aden, Ib, and Taiz, and Hodeidah. These campaigns, not only painted only 102 faces. No, we repeated some of the faces because it's like a sequence, like more than 10 times. So we have hundreds of murals of enforced disappearance on the walls of Yemen. This issue, it is politically, pure political.
I see the dates go back to the 70s. It's very brave to remember, a full picture, even going back from the 1970s. Was this inspired by the new freedom felt after the revolution, that you felt
Yes,
empowered to put the faces?
It is again, it is a clever notice that I will tell you something. In 2012, until before the invasion of militia to the capital, there was 2 years. It was full of assassinations for a lot of problems in Sana'a and Yemen and something. But believe me, this is the first time that Yemenis felt by their selves, by their freedom. However, we cannot say. I know global. Regional countries won't allow Yemen to, from neighbors or from away, for like Iran and Saudi and others, won't allow us to build our country freely. So this is the problem. Anyway, this is 2 years.
Well,
it was so amazing.
I mean, going back to the presidents in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
But we're not going to have a Yemeni politics lecture. But Yemen has had so much foreign interference, so much deliberate handicapping, so much sabotage, so much calculated destruction to ensure that its potential for self-sufficiency and agricultural flourishing and all the potential and the hope of what Yemen could be has certainly at many times in recent history just been stopped by exterior forces, right? Certainly, but when I saw your campaign of you and other artists having the bravery to put the faces and names of all the politically disappeared people as a kind of accountability and a public calling to notice, holding them accountable in a public and using these, we study portraits of the human face and how different representations of the human face over time are used for different purposes and the identities and what they serve, and even to the point of an icon, or we have so many portraits of posthumous after the death to remember the significance of people, and your work is just so much. It is just another evolution of of how portraits can be used.
I'm really, I'm in the extreme pleasure to have these feelings and these words. Really, I don't know what to say. Just shukran jazilan. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Alf Mubarak. You're using. We talk about in our long look at art history how the use of images and what to communicate and how and the power of image, text, memory, and really this campaign that was done in those very hopeful years after the revolution. Before we're going to get to your recent war campaign shortly, and you can see a big shift between that hopeful spirit, the content of the murals in 2012 painted by the community. We see people together, colorful people, that has a much more hopeful tone. And even the ability to speak freely about enforced disappearances is not the usual in Yemeni politics. That's a new freedom of being able to publicly hold the powers that be accountable, right? So we can see how these were, your hopeful period, and I certainly, I pray that after peace comes to Yemen, you will have another very hopeful period again. But your work after that and the campaign, I hope it's not like this forever, but your campaigns after with the outbreak of the coalition invasion and the coalition aggression, right? Either through dawn sculptures, I'm very curious about, and your ruins campaign, which literally uses the canvas of ruined walls, mortar shells. I can't wait to hear. And then finally your most recent Faces of War as this horror has gotten underway. You can absolutely, when you look at your whole work, you can see these clear shifts in how it reacts to different political, and extreme circumstances, for sure.
Yeah.
You took a foray into sculpture, which I think is so interesting because your work is otherwise two-dimensional painting, street art. This sculpture that you made called Dawn Sculptures, I had a look at it, and it looks like it channels so much older Yemeni forms from the Sabaean culture of antiquity.
Yes.
You have a half moon, you have that South Arabian script, which was, replaced in about the 8th century, our count, with the Northern Arabic script. But before that, all the kingdoms of Yemen had used the southern, the Sabaean and the Himyarite written language, which most people don't even know about. But but I would love to hear. Could you please tell us just how this sculpture came into being?
Well, this is El Mocha.
Okay.
El Mocha. This is the name of it. It is the united between the moon and the Athar. Athar is a god, okay? But of course, this is for you only. If I say that in the street, they will take it.
We can talk
from
about.
its place.
I teaching history is teaching all of the ways that ideas have been given names, right, by different humans in different places, and these universal ideas, right, and their experience with nature, right, the moon, the stars, their experience with these natural ideas and features, and the names and familiarity, right, that different groups of humans all over the world, and the gods' names, right, and different ideas as personalities, right, and that's just how philosophy and ideas came together in antiquity. We have a different philosophy in our modern era. We can talk about that all day long. But if we're talking about ancient Yemen, right, and Akhtar, and this whole pantheon of the ancient culture, it would be another destruction to ignore it and to never talk about Yemeni heritage, but even when it was the days of Saba and Himyar. Yeah.
So for sure, as you mentioned, regarding this El Mocha, it is the first symbol, or we can say religious symbol, that Yemenis connected and started to unite around like 5,000 years ago. This is what makes Yemenis started to build a country, a state, what we call it a state today. We know that Yemen is one of the most 5 ancient civilizations around the world. So, but because of the weak state, and there is no a respectable project for Yemenis, we lost this heritage. The world lost this heritage as well. So it's not belongs to Yemenis because only. It should be protected by the world even. So this is what's happening. I'm trying at that time. It was in the mid of before the war by 2 weeks only. I made this sculpture, this installation. I was trying to say a message to Yemenis that we have to connect it to each other to build the country, to build the state, not to divide our country. It's not because of its religious meaning. No, I don't care about religious meaning for this. I care about the message that it unites us. It is the united united between the moon and Akhtar. The moon, it was the sun and Akhtar. The sun and Akhtar, they are two gods, and then they shape this El Mocha, what makes Yemenis united 1,000 years ago around this thing. Absolutely. So this is the idea. I teach
my students about the ruins at Marib of Saba and
Yeah.
Sirwa and the Sabaean kings.
Turwa.
Aywa. And Barakish,
Yeah.
and we
Marrakesh.
it's a really depressing survey. It's a really depressing lecture because most of it has been damaged by honestly, both sides have committed damage on cultural heritage. Absolutely. Whether it's by missile or by, as you said, RPGs. So much has been lost of Yemen's antiquity, and it's shocking to historians who care about the development of civilization in the ancient world to have in South Arabia one of the most advanced irrigation systems the world has ever seen, in how natural resources and agriculture could flourish and support a society that made this elaborate artwork and that had this elaborate social hierarchy, and of course had all that wealth coming from selling incense to the rest of the ancient world. If you're burning incense every day on the altars of all the Roman altars of all the Roman Empire, that's a lot of wealth going to these South Arabian ancient kingdoms, and it got expressed in architecture, art. I later, would trade to the sea with Himyar and the Himyarite kings, and well, we know how that story ends with the Abyssinians, right, in the 6th century. But there's just a whole history and just a whole. It's like as if wiping from the earth. We know about in the West about Sumer and Babylon and Akkad and Assyria and Egypt. It's as if you're bombing a pyramid. For us, these are, as humanity in the modern paradigm, these are sacred, monuments of the glorious, really advanced ancient civilizations that just, like the mists, the dust in the desert, right?
Yeah, of course. You're right.
No, but it's very powerful to channel the old and the new as part of, constructing a new identity. Still hopeful in 2012, 2015.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's. Gosh, your next campaign in 2015 is Ruins, and
Ruins. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen you an interview in which you talk about this girl that is a dead ringer for a Banksy graffiti. Only this Yemeni graffiti, this girl is that a mortar shell in Taiz?
Yes, that area which I painted this mural, and it was all mostly the war there was by the weapons used there. It's mortar and Katyusha. And RPG and something like that. So citizens, they were there, civilians, they were innocent civilians and children, they were killed there by both sides mostly. So this is what leads me to paint this mural on a big tank container, water container there.
Looking at other ones from this series, you're using the bombed out ruins of houses. Were these houses, I don't see which cities. Which cities did, in which cities do the ruins possess you and your collective's artwork?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand your question, but do you mention the mural? You just explained the mural, well, the contains, and I will explain for you.
Okay, yeah. I'm looking at a series of murals on the walls of shelled houses, that are very clearly, have huge gaps in the wall, and you can tell these have been the recipients of great violence. There's the wall with the concrete wall with the circular motif and the smoke of the bomb, and there's still that red, black, and white motif at play.
Okay. This is in Japan. This is an artist, called Diazan, and he painted this. part, in ruins campaign in Fajatan. So yeah, it was a destroyed house, regarding the big bomb explode in that area. Yes.
Yes. And there's a family portrait, which is, an illusion. It's a painted portrait hanging on its side. Looks like and then there's a big crow, which in the Western European consciousness, crows and ravens have been associated for a long time as being the birds that get to eat when man goes to war. When their bodies lying around, carrion, traditionally,
this is
black
the message.
Birds are the symbol of death.
Yeah, this is my mural actually. This house, you look at it, all the family of it, they were killed. The only young 1-year child, she survived, and her father was away, but he explained to me this himself. And this is why I put this mural, is to show a portrait, family portrait for Yemen, and the war and also militia. All of them, they work together. They destroy the balance. We weren't very balanced, but destroy our country, to destroy the remnants of our dreams. So this is the message behind the mural. Mostly there is a story about every mural I painted. There is something connected to it. This is what I believe that makes the art more stronger. But yeah.
Wow. Do you and your artists, there's a sense of marking the memory, and honoring the memory of those who died by the violence of the war on the walls, on the ruins of their houses. It's at loss.
Yeah.
I've only chosen 4 for the slideshow, but do you have an idea at the end of the campaign how many belong to the Ruins series?
How many what?
How many, about how many, and in lots of different cities. There's one in Taz, and you mentioned the one just now in Fajr. Am I right? Is that the right? Did I remember correctly?
Do you mean the open day of art, or?
No. I mean your Ruins campaign. It's taking part. I know there were some in Hodeidah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
no, Hodeidah, it was part of 2 campaigns. The second campaign, the world's remember their faces.
We will get
and
to
also
those.
their most recent, which is the Faces of War.
Yes. Yeah. We'll get to those. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I visited only Amran.
Okay.
And made it in Sana'a, ruins. I'm speaking about ruins. In Amran, in one of the displacement camps, and also in Sana'a, and in addition to Taiz. This is the only areas, and also in London. There was part of the mural of the campaigns. I made a mural there. I called it the Dirty Legacy.
Where in London? Is it still
in Hackney? After I received award, it's called the expression of art, the freedom of expression from Index on Censorship. I had the chance to paint in Hackney Road. I think it's famous wall area. I don't know. So I made the mural. It was part of. I made this in 4 cities, and of course there is in some of the areas. Some of areas we go together with, and there is many artists company doing street with me.
Wonderful. Yeah, turning our attention to now your latest campaign, the Faces of War, which also there's been a big difference between 2015 and 2017 in terms of the human cost of war, and how just absolutely appalling the humanitarian, we just describe it as a humanitarian crisis, but all the suffering that is contained in those words, I think you translate into the visual medium for us that seems to be the informing factor, and the difference between immediately when we look at faces of war, the faces that we're looking at are faces of starvation, right? We know that the famine and the starvation is intentional and wielded as a weapon of war illegally, I might add. You know, it's if international rules of war even apply anymore, you can't starve a country of millions intentionally, because that's genocide. Nevertheless, that is what has happened in Yemen for most of the Yemeni population. Their food, agriculture has been destroyed intentionally. All incoming food supplies, which they became increasingly dependent on, have been cut off, mostly by making war and relentless war recently on the northern port of Al-Hodeida. Right. So this has been such a flashpoint of the war and such a ground zero for the poor people who had previously called Hodeida home, and it has been turned into one of the most notorious fronts of such a cruel war that's creating, you know, the conditions of starvation for so many millions of Yemenis. So so that's just what I see when I looked at your Faces of War, and I'm looking at those sunken eyes and the skeletal faces. That was the context that immediately came to me. But I was curious. About the other artists who are working with you, whether your work is beyond Hodeida, the collaboration and the message, and raising awareness through images of this latest chapter in Yemen's war.
Yeah. So, what is the answer? The question
Tell me about the circumstances. I have 5.
Okay.
I have 5 images from your Faces of War.
Yeah, it is only 5.
Okay.
Because Faces of War, it's like a new way, a new style of my art. I'm trying to convey a whole message, a very one. We can see that. I mean, it's just by one character or something like this, which represent that the faces, I mean, if you look to the big holes on the eyes, you'll notice that it is the Yemenis who saw a lot of horrible during the war. And also you'll notice the skin is sticking to the bone. It's regarding the starvation and or something, the lacking of clean food, clean water, or something. Also the hair, it's like a battle there. It's like a burning forest as well. So this is what I'm trying to convey by this new collection. You know, I made 3 in Hodeida. I launched this Faces of War in Hodeida, and I'm still trying to continue improve it. But as I told you, I'm still connected with people in every year with an event called Open Day of Art in every 15th of March. Where we go, I call them and I made this invitation where people came to, to paint together with their children or something. And I was lucky last year, and I'm sorry, just opened the door. So
I'm crossing my fingers for the connection.
so yes, just yeah. I'm sorry. So you know, and this is why I'm trying to keep connected to people every year, not only because it's hard for us, for me even to make them go every month or every other month or something. So it's happening that at least still via this event. And also the good thing that with this event, I'm trying even to connect Yemenis with others around the world, and also to connect the event with similar issues, or despite our differences, or whether it's you know, religious or geographic areas or languages. But art is a language, a universal language. So this is what the event is about: bridging the people with art.
Well, if all goes well, I certainly hope that you'll get even wider participation. I mean, who knows what we'll do on the 15th of March. I would love to. I'm looking forward to this year. How many years is it that you've been doing the Day of Art campaign? How many years?
It will be the 5th edition next year. So after 4 months. And also I have been now there is a lot of people from the event will be held in addition to Yemen, of course, some cities in Yemen, in UK, and then South Korea again, and France again, and also in Tana, which is 2 cities in Madagascar. So it will be fantastic if we have people from.
Let's see if we might add New Orleans to that list.
Excuse me?
Let's see if we might add New Orleans to that list. Perhaps we can organize for March.
Yeah, of course. It will be a pleasure to have you, really. So, this is what is what's Open Day of Art is about. But regarding the phases of war, I'm still connecting, improving myself. So it's good that there is a change in my style.
Absolutely. Are all of the 5 pieces of Faces of War, are these exclusively by your hand?
No, not by my. No, I sketched it. Well, just wait. I maybe you will have. It's just this. You will see the sketch. Okay.
Oh, this is wonderful. What a gift.
Yeah. You're welcome. So just a minute.
I know we've already gone over my class time, but they're going to get a treat now that nobody else has gotten. I haven't seen any sketches of yours publicized or put on your website, so this is a real treat.
Yeah, this is if you noticed, the 3 faces, right?
Yes.
You noticed them? Okay, this is the face of the 3 faces, just cut it from here, okay? I made it a freehand sketch, okay? And then I posted it. This is the hammer.
Yes.
I made it by my hand, of course. This is it was in November 18, and then after 3 days I went to Hodeida to paint it. This is, you can notice, this is a Tihamia woman, or something like that. So this is a part of what I made for this person. It's like a Santa Claus hat. You will notice that maybe you can find it you'll find it in my website for sure. Yeah, so this I supposed to paint this thing in Hodeida, but because of the we have a problem there.
Yes.
Me and my brother. So we escaped the area back home to Sana'a, and
you were lucky.
This area anyway. But this one I called it Happy War Days. I released it in last Christmas, last year. I don't know what you call it. Happy year. I don't know. I'm sorry.
The new year.
I'm not. The new year, of course.
New year.
The new year. Yeah.
Happy year.
Yeah. Very well. So yeah, I called it Happy Word Days. It is a card, and also you can download it and you can print it for anyone you want to publish to send it.
What
to
a
whom
better
you want.
holiday card is there? What
Yeah.
better to spread
Okay.
awareness and cheer?
Yeah.
You know, my dear ones, my family and friends are running a risk of getting a Murad Subay season's greetings. It would be an honor. It would be an honor to send and receive your work, honestly. We've gone over, we've talked for over an hour, so I know I have to cut it short so that my students can go.
No problem.
Any last statement on your work, your motive, your effect, your impact, all anything, any and all?
Well, I'm glad to really thank you so much.
Thank you.
For this conversation. It's my pleasure to be with you, all of you. And always, do not stay at your corner. Move and do something for good, just for good. Good luck.
Bravo. Thank you so much. The honor was really ours. And thank you so much. And we can't wait. Hopefully, I can't wait to see what your art evolves to in the future too.
Of course, we'll be in contact.
Okay.
Okay. Good luck. Goodbye.